When we decided to take a trip to Japan, Sarah and I were thrilled at the prospect of exploring a country so rich in culture and tradition. We rented a charming house through Airbnb, situated in a small town on the outskirts of Tokyo. It was a typical Japanese residence, with soft tatami mats, sliding paper doors, and a picturesque Zen garden. In the first few days, everything seemed perfect. We explored local temples, savored the local cuisine, and ventured through the quiet streets of the town. However, after a few days, we began to notice strange things happening in the house. The first clue that something was amiss was when we returned from an outing to find the house perfectly clean, as if someone had done a thorough cleaning in our absence. Our beds were made, the floor was sparkling, and even the dirty dishes had mysteriously disappeared. Initially, I thought my girlfriend might have tidied up while I was out, but she insisted she hadn't done anything. At night, we started hearing strange noises coming from the kitchen. There were sounds of utensils clattering, and it sounded like someone was opening the refrigerator. I got up to investigate, but when I entered the kitchen, the noise abruptly stopped. Everything was in order, with no signs of intrusion. One day, upon returning from the market, I noticed something disturbing. The groceries we had bought were disappearing more quickly than expected. I asked my girlfriend if she was eating more than usual, but she vehemently denied it. I began to feel uneasy, but I didn't want to alarm her. However, in the following nights, the noises returned, this time louder and more persistent. We decided to take action. The next morning, before heading out to explore the city, we made a detailed list of everything in the refrigerator and cabinets. We locked the house door carefully, leaving a small opening in the window to observe. We went out, trying to disguise our nervousness as we walked through the streets. Upon returning hours later, my heart sank. The refrigerator seemed emptier than before. Some bread and other groceries we had purchased had disappeared. Sarah looked at me, her eyes reflecting the same fear I felt. It was then that we decided to contact the homeowner through Airbnb. We sent frantic messages to the owner, demanding explanations for what was happening. He responded calmly, claiming he had not entered the house during our stay. The situation was getting out of control. Afraid and unsure whom to turn to, we decided to call the police. The police arrived shortly, and we explained the strange situation we were facing. They meticulously examined every corner of the house but found no signs of break-in or intrusion. I could feel them doubting our story. That's when Sarah recalled the strange noises coming from the ceiling. Reluctantly, the police agreed to check the attic of the house. They climbed up cautiously, and I followed them nervously. What we found up there was beyond anything we could have imagined. In the dark and dusty attic, a figure cowered in the corner, trembling with fear. It was a woman, dressed in rags, resembling a homeless person. She looked at us with wild, frightened eyes. We were all shocked and confused. The police acted swiftly, taking her into custody as she muttered unintelligible words. It was a relief to discover that we weren't imagining things. That woman, somehow, had been living secretly in that house. After the situation calmed down and the woman was taken away, we spoke with the police to understand how she managed to hide so well. They explained that she likely entered and exited the attic through a narrow passage in the kitchen ceiling, and that this wasn't the first house she had lived in. This way. That revelation was disturbing. In the following days, we tried to resume our trip, but the incident left a weight on us. The thought of someone living in secret, under the same roof, haunted us. We decided to leave the house as soon as possible and find safer accommodations. I couldn't shake the images of that woman in the attic from my mind. Her disheveled appearance and wild eyes. Her silent presence while we were sleeping. Everything seemed so surreal. I felt mildly traumatized. We decided to leave Japan earlier than planned. Although it was disappointing to abandon our adventure halfway through, the need for peace and security was greater. The rest of the trip passed in a blur of anxiety until we finally returned home. Over time, things began to return to normal. The days passed, and the events in Japan became a distant memory, although I still shuddered at the thought of that experience. Sometime later, I contacted the homeowner to inquire about what happened afterward. I discovered that the woman had apparently lived there for nearly a year, secretly inhabiting the house and taking advantage of everyone who rented it from him. It was supposed to be an exciting getaway with my friend Lisa. We had planned a short trip to a picturesque town on the coast, and I found a lovely apartment on Airbnb for us to stay during our visit. The reviews were great, and the photos showed a cozy living space with a stunning ocean view. Unfortunately, things took an unexpected turn when Lisa missed her flight due to a last-minute work emergency. She encouraged me to go ahead without her, assuring me she would join me in a few days. Reluctantly, I found myself heading to the coastal town alone, filled with a mix of emotions between excitement and apprehension. Upon arriving at the apartment, I was greeted by a friendly host named Mark. He showed me around the place, which was exactly as advertised: modern, clean, and inviting. Mark seemed affable enough, offering tips on local attractions and restaurants before handing over the keys and letting me settle in. Once alone, I unpacked my bags and tried to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over me. I was sensing something strange, as if I were being watched. It was probably just paranoia, but I couldn't shake the thought. That night, as I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, I couldn't shake that feeling. It was probably just my imagination running wild after watching too many horror movies, I reasoned. But then, I remembered the disturbing stories about Airbnb guests discovering hidden cameras in their rentals. With a surge of determination, I decided to conduct a thorough search of the apartment. I started in the bedroom, checking behind frames and inside drawers. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until I reached the bookshelf. Pushing aside a few books, my heart skipped a beat when I spotted a small, discreet camera lens staring back at me. Panic overtook me as I realized someone had been watching me. Without hesitation, I grabbed my phone and called the police. They reassured me they would handle the situation and instructed me to stay put. Minutes felt like hours as I waited for the police to return. I couldn't shake the sense of violation, imagining someone watching every move of mine in this supposedly private space. Eventually, I heard a knock on the door and opened it cautiously to find two officers outside. They informed me they had apprehended the host, Mark, who had returned to the apartment during my call. Apparently, he had been monitoring the hidden camera remotely and rushed back to confront me when he realized I had found it. The officers assured me I was safe now and escorted me downstairs to give my statement. Mark was taken away in handcuffs, and a thorough search of the apartment was conducted. To my horror, two more hidden cameras were discovered, one in the bathroom and another in the living room. The reality of the situation hit me like a punch. I had been the victim of a sinister invasion of privacy. The following days were a blur of police interviews, legal proceedings, and an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. The support of friends and family helped, but the experience left an indelible mark on me. I couldn't help but wonder how many other unsuspecting guests had fallen prey to Mark's voyeuristic scheme. In the subsequent investigation, it was revealed that Mark had a history of similar offenses. He had been operating this disturbing scheme for years, exploiting the trust of Airbnb guests for his perverse gratification. The thought sent chills down my spine. Eventually, the case went to trial, and Mark was found guilty of multiple charges related to invasion of privacy and illegal surveillance. He was sentenced to pay restitution to his victims and serve a substantial prison term. In the aftermath of this harrowing experience, I found solace in advocating for stricter regulations and safety measures for vacation rental platforms. I shared my story with the media to raise awareness about the importance of vigilance when staying in unfamiliar accommodations. Slowly, I began to regain a sense of normalcy in my life. Lisa and I eventually reunited and reflected on how lucky I was to uncover the hidden cameras before something more sinister happened. It was a sobering reminder of hidden dangers, even in seemingly idyllic settings. Looking back, I'm grateful for the swift response of the authorities and the support of loved ones during this traumatic episode. It taught me valuable lessons about trust, security, and the importance of reporting wrongdoing. Over time, I learned to manage the lingering sense of unease and reclaim my sense of security. Despite the scars left by the experience, I emerged stronger and more vigilant, determined never to let my guard down again in unfamiliar environments. Thank you for watching until here. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. See you soon.